Hi! So for today's round of Kick Butt Girls, I thought I'd do a lightning version because I realized I have so many more Kick Butt Girls to talk about and only 2 more videos. So, are you ready? Here we go. First up, we have the lovely Daughters of Death in Robin Lefever's His Fair Assassins series. This is kind of like historical fantasy. It's set in France when France wasn't entirely France, and there was a lot of political upheaval, and there's all sorts of politics and things going on. But really all you need to know is that the main characters, Sibella in Dark Triumph and Ismay in Grave Mercy, are awesome. They are convent-trained assassins. I mean, do I need to say anything else? It doesn't get much more kick butt than that, right? The books are super fun. I love the emotional journeys that the girls go on because they are assassins, and you know, that's kind of a weird job, right? But the books are very, very fun, very good reads, and seriously kick butt. We're big fans of Miyazaki, the filmmaker, in our house. We love that most of his films focus on girls, and they focus on girls without huge powers to help them, telling very almost small stories, but in such a beautiful and thoughtful way. One of his most recent is The Secret World of Arrietty, which is actually an adaptation of The Borrowers. And Arrietty is really small, but she has a pin for a sword, and she's willing to fight and do whatever it takes to help her family and to create a life for them in a world that is literally too big for them to live in. And so we love this one at our house. Very, very good. All of Miyazaki's films are good. Spirited Away also features a really strong heroine. My Neighbor Totoro features 2 of them. Way to go, Miyazaki. Hey Kiersten, how can you do a series on Kick Butt Girls without featuring Katniss? Katniss! You already know about her. I really enjoyed this series. It was interesting watching the film as opposed to the book. I felt like some of Katniss's toughness was lost. They had to soften her for the film, which made sense because you weren't in her head and you weren't experiencing her every thought. When you were trapped inside of her head, the choices that she made, which were frequently brutal, always felt very authentic and they made sense, and I liked that Collins didn't shy away from creating these impossible situations for her character and putting her character through them. Katniss, awesome. Brave, which features not 1 but 2 Kick Butt Girls in the form of the mother-daughter team of Merida and Eleanor. I loved this movie. I loved that it was a mother-daughter story and a story about relationships between women and women figuring out ways to empower themselves in a world that is not always built around them. In fact, is almost never built around them. A lot of people didn't like that there wasn't a romance, but I loved that it focused on the family relationship. Mind Games kind of focuses more on the sister relationship than romance too, so I'm a big fan of families. Taylor Markham from Jellico Road, a brilliant novel by Melina Marchetta, an Australian writer. And I know what you're all thinking if you've read it. You're thinking Jonah Griggs, which, yes, Jonah Griggs, obviously. But I loved Taylor. I loved that she had been raised in such an unusual circumstance and was able to overcome being abandoned by her mother and raised at a boarding school. First, when the book started, I was really confused about what this war was and exactly what type of book that it was. But as things progress, you realize that it's just woven together beautifully and is a really touching and interesting story about one girl coming to terms with where she came from and where she's going. Elizabeth Bennet kicks butt so hard, she gets Mr. Darcy. Enough said. Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wine, I think is how I say her last name. I'm so sorry if that's wrong. And it is one of my naked books. I take the jackets off while I read them, and sometimes I lose them. I loved this book. I thought it was brilliant. You go through the first half of the novel thinking that it's good, but it's kind of strange, and then the second half of the novel, all of a sudden it dawns on you what a freaking brilliant masterpiece it is. The 2 main characters, Queenie and Maddie, will break your heart in the best possible way. It's a romance of friendship and loyalty, and all taking place under the cover of World War II with spies and pilots, and it's just an amazing book. I recommend it to everyone, always, featuring 2 of the greatest heroines I have read in recent memory. And finally, our last feature in this lightning round, Karoo! I always want to say Karoo, Karay! I don't know why. So Karoo not only has naturally blue hair, she can fly. She has lived 2 lives, basically, and you get to find out about both of them. And both her life as Karoo and her life as Madrigal are so interesting and well-written. Laini Taylor is one of my favorite writers. I'm constantly astonished by the beauty and the insight of her writing and the things that she can do that I think very few other writers could get away with. I loved the first book, which is Daughter of Smoke and Bone. Second book, Days of Blood and Starlight. I loved even more because I felt like the 2 worlds were blended together in such a coherent and flowing way. And the way that they were expanded, both our world that Karoo was raised in, and then the world of the Chimera that her past self, Madrigal, was raised in, were just so beautifully realized and so interesting. And the dynamics of relationships and war and loyalty and trust are just so well explored, with an incredibly engaging and seriously kick-butt heroine in Karoo. So if you have not checked out Daughter of Smoke and Bone yet, I super recommend it. I recommend all of Laini's books because her writing is exquisite. And I always love the women characters that she features. I think she does an amazing job of creating very real, feeling, very strong women. So that's it for today's lightning round. Thank you for joining me, and stay tuned for next week in my final Kick Butt Girls video. It's a little different, and I think you might like it. And just in case you're wondering, I'm not going to run around and kick people's butts. Thought about it, but I decided a live action kick butt girl probably would get me thrown in jail. So.